Welcome back to the Wellness Wire, presented by Plugged In Recovery. This is Eric, joined by Wade, and I think we are on episode number 6.
Yes, sir.
We're on episode number 6 here, and this week we're going to be talking about something that's super relevant to this time of year, especially in the treatment, mental health space, well-being space, wellness space. Yep. Wellness Wire, not well-being. And either way, we're going to be talking about seasonal affective disorder, SAD, or as most people refer to it, seasonal depression.
Yes.
And specifically how that affects people in recovery from substance abuse. And so, yeah, that's what we're going to be talking about here for the majority of the pod. And then we're going to get into some updates and whatnot about some upcoming things here at Plugged In Recovery. So, yeah, why don't we just get going? Wade, we've got the clinical definition of seasonal affective disorder, or SAD. And I think, why don't you start off by reading that, and then we'll get into the episode.
100%. So the seasonal affective disorder, SAD, is a form of depression that occurs at a specific time of the year, typically during the fall and winter months. When daylight hours are shorter, this condition can significantly impact individuals with pre-existing mental health disorders and those recovering from substance use disorders.
Exactly. So, to break it down in the layman's term, winter months. Yes. The fall and winter months can be tough for people struggling with substance use, addiction, and other mental health problems. And I think you'll see that although winter is the months that heighten some of these concerns, I actually think that there's a decline in people reaching out for help during those months, which is why I think it's important to touch on that, because it seems that when the times when people are struggling the most are the times where they're reaching out for help the least. Right. And we see that in the treatment space with the sober livings. And so we just wanted to shine light on that situation and just provide some statistics about what's going on and different resources, to use to reach out for help if you or a loved one are going through something like that. We also see it a lot. People are coming home for the holidays. A lot of the time, if you're an addict or alcoholic, you don't see your family that much throughout the year, but usually you're coming together around the holiday season, and that puts a lot of strain on relationships and stuff too. So having a better understanding about how that all plays into each other can help you out. Yeah, man. So would you have anything to touch on that?
Well, I think it's just an important topic because it's something that a lot of people don't think about. We've talked and touched on the holidays being such a hard time for people, and what we don't realize is this affects 5% of adults just in general, right? It's not 5% of adults who have mental health or substance abuse. So addicts and alcoholics and anybody who struggle with mental health, a lot of times will forget that other people in their life, other family members in their life also have issues that they are dealing with. They could be dealing with seasonal depression, and they could be having fights in their relationships and things like that. And then the addict comes in and just creates even more chaos that they then have to deal with when they have all their own problems going on. And we've talked about it. Nobody wants to get sober. You have Thanksgiving, which is a family time, and usually a time that you can, drink with family and use and do that type of stuff. Then you're coming into the holidays where you're going to get presents and gifts and all the excuses. And then it's going to be the New Year's resolution. And we generally don't see people finally come in until about February, March. But when it comes to the actual seasonal affective disorder, I'm from Minnesota. I get this to the core. When it's dark and you wake up and it's cold outside, and you get home at 3 o'clock and it's dark and it's cold outside, and you think to yourself, what better thing is there to do than either watch a movie or go to the bar and get some drinks, or like just stay in and have a glass of wine, or smoke some weed and just hang out, because there's not a lot else that's going on. And I think we're super lucky to be in a state where it's sunny 85-90% of the time, and we have a very moderate climate in the winter months, which I think is also what makes this such a treatment destination for people. I mean, I look at the center right now, and a majority of our people are out-of-state people who are in there currently, and I think that has a lot to do with it.
It does, actually. So one of the number one recommendations for substance use disorders when it comes to seasonal depression is light therapy. If you are in an area of the country where it's predominantly snowy, overcast, and there's not a lot of sunlight, natural light happening throughout the day, they do recommend UV light therapy. There's places that offer it as a service. Also, there's light boxes that you can get online. They're kind of like tanning beds, but they're a different level of UV light that mimics natural sunlight. And so they say 20 to 30 minute exposure from a light box would simulate about the same amount of sunlight that you would receive just going throughout your day, which is actually the number one recommendation for treating seasonal depression, because the absence of the sun plays a huge part in that. You know, we don't realize we get a lot of vitamins from sunlight, and those affect our, what do they call it, your physiosocial or physiopsychic. I don't know, I'm not a doctor, but it affects your overall mood and your mental health. So yeah, good to touch on it. Also too, just being in Arizona, you're right, a lot of the time it doesn't help being surrounded by dark, gloomy snow. It's cold, and you're also struggling with anxiety, depression, and then you're using on top of that. All those things do compile.
100%.
And yeah, it's important to note that, man. And I think another interesting fact too that we found when we were looking into this, they say that about 25% of people who are suffering from seasonal depression also have a co-occurring substance use problem. So 1 out of 4 people who are experiencing seasonal depression have some form of substance abuse as well in their life, whether that's alcohol or other substances. Why don't you touch on, you know, what you've seen? You've had sober livings for the past couple of years, and now you have a treatment center. I mean, from that point of view, how have you seen the winter months affect that daily process?
Well, we do get a lot of people from out of state, and what I can touch on with anything, whether it's, you know, seasonal depression or most issues that people have in co-occurring disorders, is that if you don't first treat the substance use problem, you don't stop drinking, you don't stop using, you're never going to get to the second half of that, which is, you know, maybe I'm just depressed because I go home every day and I don't do anything. And I used to have an old boss, which is funny, and he used to say he had these like 2 little sticks with pictures on them, and one was Eeyore and the other one was Tigger. And he's like, "You're gonna be Eeyore today, or you're gonna be Tigger today?" Like, and I look at that, and it's like when I go back home and it's 3 days of just pure clouds in Minnesota, and it's kind of cold or chilly, and I'm all bundled up and I have gloves and whatever else, and it's tough when you're in a down mood to get yourself out of that down mood. And I don't notice it, but rarely when I find a little bit of moments of gratitude, like on my drive to work, where I'm like, it's sunny out, there's palm trees, I'm feeling good, I'm looking good, I got a little bit of a tan going, whatever it is, like those little things all add up. But if you don't get sober first, none of those things are going to matter. So it starts with that. We definitely see this time of year a lot of people from out of state do come. Arizona is a mecca of recovery, which is amazing. There are so many things to do, which is like outside meetings, bonfire meetings, there's volleyball, softball, hiking, there's, you know, the river. There's so many things that you can do and stay active so you're not bored in your recovery, because a lot of things that people struggle with when they're in those Midwest, out east, you know, up north states, is that there's not a lot to do. And if there's not a lot to do, you're stuck in your head. And if you're stuck in your head is where your disease lives, which is telling you all these lies, right? And a drink doesn't sound like too bad of an idea after a very short period of time. So this time of year, it's really tough to get people to get sober because they have the holidays and they have New Year's and they have these things that, you know, all the lies they've told themselves for so long is, you know, next week sounds like the perfect week to get sober, and then the next week comes and it sounds like it's even a better time the week after that to finally get sober. And the reality of it is there's no better time than now. And so it's those people who make that first decision to start addressing the problem at hand that then we can work on all of the other things. And a lot of it just ends up taking care of itself.
Right. And I think that's important to touch on. It's like they always say the best time to get sober was last year.
Yeah.
The second best time to get sober is today. And you do hear a lot of that, right? People know they need help. I've been one of them where it's like I knew that I couldn't keep doing what I was doing, but I was like, but I got to go back home for the holidays, and then it's New Year's, so I'll just wait until then. And then New Year's rolls around and you're like, oh, but I'll just wait until it's springtime, or I can't take the time off of work. And there's always going to be a roadblock to making that decision to reach out for help. But it's like, it's just like anything, right? Debt or anything, right? The longer you let it compound, the worse the problem is going to get.
Every single time.
And it's like, you know, a lot of the time, if you're an addict or alcoholic, you know, oh, I don't know if I could take the time off of work. Chances are you're not going to hold that job for very long, continuing on the way that you are. So it's always better to focus on your well-being, and your priority should be removing the substance from the equation, like you said, because a lot of anxieties and depressions and guilt, shame, remorse, and a lot of unresolved trauma that compiles with the substance use. So if you're not first removed from alcohol or other substances, you can't even begin to effectively treat some of the underlying issues, because you're essentially going to be trying to process trauma and process some emotional stuff while you're still actively using the things that are like adding to that problem. So no, it is important to first be removed from that before you can even start doing some of the other work. And it's a continuum. It takes time. But I know for a fact, if you were to reach out to my dad or my grandparents and ask them if they would have preferred that I went to treatment instead of coming home for the holidays, they would say 100%.
Yeah.
We would have rathered him spent one Christmas in a rehab facility so that we could have him back for the other ones.
Without it, and not only that, it just goes to, most of the time we don't realize, you know, with how selfish this disease is we think we have to be the life of the party, or we think we have, you know, I remember it was my sister who told me, you know, when you're not here, do you think we don't know how to have fun? Like, unless you're drunk, like, do you think that on a regular Friday night, I don't know how to have fun, or I can't laugh, or any of those things? But in my head, I was able to tell myself that story time and time again, that I had to show up and I had to be this person who's the life of the party and made people laugh and, like, put on this face and all of those things. And it was, again, just those lies I told myself to keep going. And really, the whole Christmas, the whole Thanksgiving, they were just worried sick about what was Wade going to do. What was Wade going to the bathroom? Is he really going to the store just to get, you know, a Gatorade, or is he going to do this? You know, we don't really want you to go to the bar because we're worried that if we go to the bar with you, that you're not going to be able to stop. And now everybody's night's ruined. And it just becomes all about this self-consumed thing where every single time they would have said, we prefer you to be in a safe place, that we know you're in a safe place, that we can come visit you, do that type of thing. And in 30 days, we're going to get you back, and we're going to get the Wade back that we want to have, that we know you can be. And it's sad, but most people see our potential for us before we can see it in ourselves.
Right. And you're 100% correct, dude. Like, dude, I'm telling you, if you were to ask my family, they'd be like, we would actually prefer him to, like, not be here this year, because every time I'm around, like you said, why is he going out to his car? It's like, how many times did you forget your charger in your car? Like, oh, you on Thanksgiving Day, you've got to go down to the gas station to get something. It's like, it's always something, right? And it's like, we convince ourselves like, no, like we need to be there. But sometimes you're just using the fact that it's a holiday and that your family's getting together to just as an excuse not to go get the help that you need, when really I would 90% of the time your loved ones, your family members would prefer for you to be somewhere that they at least know you're getting the help that you need.
And the really sad part about the whole thing is, you know, you say you want to be there to spend it with them and to be around them and do those types of things, and they're going to not say no because you're family and they love you and they want what's best for you. And the really sad part about it is like the only thing that these people did wrong was love you unconditionally. You know, with no strings attached, with nothing tied to it. All they did was love you unconditionally and want you to be a part of your life and want you to be in their life. And they just wish that their love was enough to get you to get sober, and will take every inch and turn it into a mile of needing their grace on the back end because we just take it too far every single time.
Right. And I think something important to touch on too, right, is that a lot of the time the enabling comes not because the intention is to enable the addict or the alcoholic to continue their use, but sometimes families, specifically when it comes to parents and loved ones or even spouses, you're just ill-equipped to handle that situation because you don't have a good understanding on how to work with somebody who's in active addiction, right? And so a lot of the time you're like, you want to try to do what's best for them, but you don't necessarily know what that looks like. And you don't have a good support system or wide enough network, because that's not an easy topic to bring up in just daily life. Like, I have an alcoholic son and I don't know how to help them, right? And so it could be tough, and you're trying your best with the resources and the knowledge that you have, but you may not necessarily be having the best effect on that, right? Which is important to touch on, like, okay, like having a better understanding of like, it's the winter months, it's the holiday season. These are already like very emotional times for people. And then you add substance use on top of that. If you understand that and you come from a place of understanding, you could have a more effective message to relay. Because I know, at least for myself and from a lot of other people, you just feel misunderstood, and you feel like your family doesn't understand it, right? Because they can say stuff like, why don't you just stop? Or like, when's enough gonna be enough? Or all these other things. And it's like, you know already that what you're doing isn't right. You know already that like this isn't how it's supposed to be. But it's like you have an inability to stop. You have a mental obsession that controls your decision making, and you have a physical craving where you cannot stop, right? And so it's like a lot of the time you would have a better chance of reaching a loved one, a spouse, a child that's in active addiction if you have a better understanding of exactly what's going on, and then you add that to some of these other mental health problems that they could be going to, which may be the difference between them hearing you and accepting that help. So it is important to know. Without
a doubt. You see so many people who they're already depressed, they're already super anxious, they have so much shame and guilt that even if something good is going for them in their lives, they can't even accept it. They're so depressed about their current situation that they can't even see the good things that are coming into their life. And a lot of families would rather have, you know, little Johnny or little Susie at their house because they can at least, they feel like, watch over the chaos rather than them being out there on their own. And the reality is unless they get started down a path towards long-term recovery, and I don't know each time what the difference maker is. I wish I had the magic bullet. I just had a conversation about this last night, is, you know, what was different the last time? And I don't know, other than having more experience of trying to get sober and a little bit more willingness to do the right thing. And what ends up being on the back end of all of those trials and all of those errors and all those lifting myself up just to pull the rug from myself and everybody else else who had high hopes for me, was this time around, I made a couple different decisions, right? I made a couple decisions at probably forks in the road, proverbial forks in the road, where I took the right path this time, and I said I didn't give in that little moment, and like that created that snowball of momentum to keep continually doing the right thing. I don't know why people January 1st make a New Year's resolution and only 7% of them can even make it past January. Do I really think it was because they had ill intent on December 31st to not keep that? Or was it maybe just the 7% that kept it through January 1st or January 31st? I don't think it was because they had that much more willpower. It's just there was probably a couple days, maybe around week 1, week 2, where like they could have said, no, I'm not going to do this anymore, but they made that decision, and then that momentum kept them on. And recovery is the exact same way. If you just start this process, if you go seek help, you maybe go to sober living, or don't go to sober living but do some type of aftercare, you have constant check-ins, you have accountability, there's going to be a couple roadblocks that are taken out of the way for you to stay on a straight and narrow path. But at the end of the day, you're going to have to make a couple right decisions, and the winter months are hard enough in general. There's so many outside factors as it is that like it's harder now to get started. But if you get started, the results, 2025 does not have to be another year like 2024 was, 2023 was, 2022 was. But you're not going to get to 2025 not being a bad year if you don't get started right now. So by halfway through the year, all of those things start coming back.
Yeah, and that's so true. And just to touch on one more thing too, if you are a parent, a loved one, a spouse, or just somebody that, if you're someone who has someone in your life that you care about that's going through active addiction or alcoholism, I think something very, very important to understand is that you're only going to have so much effect on this person's ability to recover, and that I always recommend to just reach out and have a conversation with a professional, whether it's a treatment center, an outpatient program, a sober living, but calling somebody who's a professional in the field who has a better idea as far as where your loved one is currently at in active addiction, they're going to receive the help they need from a treatment center or an outpatient program, or just places that are designed to help them. And a lot of the time, if you talk to people who participate in Al-Anon meetings, or parents of addicts and alcoholics, what is it, PALS? Yep. If you talk to people who are in these programs that are for individuals who have experience with loved ones that struggle with addiction, they're going to tell you the same thing, is that they probably wish that they reached out for help to a professional sooner, because their attempts to help were just enabling this person to continue on. And you just never know exactly when things can take a turn for the worse. And so it's always important to at least have those conversations and seek professional help. And
with things like seasonal depression and mental illness, anxiety, depression, bipolar disorder, all the underlying issues that may or may not be there, unfortunately, the holidays puts a lot of that stress, shame, guilt. Oh, I spent all my money on alcohol, so I can't even buy, mom or dad or the girlfriend a present this year, and I just feel like I'm, the lowest of the low, and what does my life come to? I'm 30 years old, I'm 35 years old, I'm 40 years old, and I can't get the kids Christmas presents this year. And unfortunately, that feeds the addiction, and you see a lot of people who don't make it through the holidays, and what could have been a pretty special time, even if you were in treatment just for a month, or maybe just going and seeing an outside counselor or a therapist or whatever that looks like, can turn into a nightmare for your family for years to come, because you're no longer there, and we see that far too many times, especially this time of year, and it's a really sad reality of where things can get.
Yeah, there is a statistic out there from the national, it's the mental health, SAMHSA.
Yep.
And there is a statistic out there that there is an uptick in suicide and drug-related overdoses between November and January. So those are actually the highest years of overdoses. And I think a lot of the time it's because, as addicts and alcoholics, like you said, a lot of the guilt, shame, remorse, when you're self-medicating from that what that looks like is increased use. And with increased use, that's what causes overdoses, and sometimes they are fatal. And this is the peak season for that. And a lot of it has to do with seasonal depression, and mix that in with substance use. Now, some key things to look out for. If you're thinking to yourself, like either for yourself, if you're currently struggling with addiction, or if it's a loved one that you think maybe there's something there, fatigue, isolation. Seasonal depression looks exactly like regular depression would, but it's just amplified by the effect of weather, specifically in regions where there's a lack of natural sunlight. So, what that looks like I said, isolation, disinterest in things that normally interest you, low energy, things like that are not to be ignored. Those are all symptoms or side effects of the depression.
Without a doubt. And you're going to see that stuff pop up more and more. You're going to see, if it's spending habits or shopping habits, or, you're on your phone nonstop. There's so many things that people can get attached to. But if you start noticing behaviors that just don't seem normal, especially if someone tends to maybe take it a little too far too often, there might be something else that's going on. And there could be an uncomfortable conversation, but that uncomfortable conversation could save someone's life. And at the end of the day, I think you have to weigh those pros and cons with a clear and sober mind. And if you're in that state to do it for someone else, there's no better time than now to make that decision.
That's very true. And they say, in addition to light therapy, if you're in a region where they're lacking natural light, another big suggestion that they always have, and this is the same with just depression, anxiety, is any mental health really is exercise. Doing exercise to release endorphins and serotonin naturally without seeking it through social media or excessive spending or substances or anything external. If you're able to put yourself on a more regular exercise routine, excuse me, that also is going to be a huge factor in combating some of the symptoms that you see. Because really, we've talked a lot about people who are in active addiction struggling with this, but people in recovery also experience seasonal depression, and there are a lot of factors that play into a relapse. But I think, if you were to look around the grand spectrum, we see just with sober livings and stuff like that, we try to do more events and more community involved things throughout the holiday season, because it is a season of increased relapse. You see that all the time, where someone could have been doing very well for themselves and then they go back home and there's a triggering situation, whether it's unresolved complications with relationships with their family, or maybe there's whatever that looks like, right? That added stress and emotional baggage that you can carry around the holiday season, it has the same effect on people who are in active recovery as it does with people who are active addiction. And if you don't have a good support system and you start isolating and doing those things, it could increase the chance of a relapse for those in recovery.
Without a doubt. Without a doubt. I also want to kind of turn the page on that a little bit, is, this season being the holiday season and coming up on another year, and just going back to what I said about 2025 could be your year. And I think people lose sight of, we get to see the miracle of people changing their lives every single day. I get to see, families reunited, marriages saved, people get the job of their dreams, nurses get their license back, people get to start their own business. 2025 could be the year that you always wanted, that, this year is going to be my year, or, this year is going to be way different than last year, and I'm going to become this person. I'm going to get to the gym. I'm going to do those types of things. It just starts with a single step, and there's no better time than in the next, 24 days before we get into the new year to actually turn this ship around. And it's going to start with a decision, and after that decision, it's little baby steps action, but it's not one giant move that you have to make. It's just one step in the right direction, and all of those things can come back. I just repeatedly want to tell people that it may have taken years to mess up your life, which means that you're not going to get it back overnight, right? But what I can tell you is you can have a bell curve that is extremely slighted in your favor by just taking a couple right steps, because once you start on that path and you get momentum and that snowball starts rolling downhill for you and is picking up snow on its own, you're in a good spot to get everything that you want to get back, and it can happen this year. So if you're in a place, all you have to do is start now, ask for some help, get into a nice place. If you can't get into a nice place, just find someone who's willing to help you, a sponsor, get to a meeting, do those types of things, because this could be the year you always wanted it to be. And why not start now? Why keep pushing this thing down the road? Why now starting halfway through the year, and now you're back into January, and now it's going to be 2026 is my year? It's just like, enough with the lies, enough with the BS. Start the process, make a step in the right direction, pick up the phone, call some help, call a family member that you know will help you, and let's get this thing moving in the right direction, because I want you to want it for yourself. I want you to want it for yourself. And if you really want it, like I'm sure have told yourself at some point you want it. I don't know an addict or an alcoholic out there that deep down knows that their life couldn't be better and doesn't want their life to be better. As much as they can play that facade off, they would give up being that person in a heartbeat to be the person that they always thought they could be. And you're never going to get there unless you just start. So pick up the phone and call someone and ask for help.
100%, man. So yeah, I hope that kind of helped you guys a little bit, just to shed light on something that I don't see a whole lot of people kind of touching on that, but I thought it was just super prevalent and important to touch on. If you want more information, or if you want the sources from which we received all of these statistics and information, Wellness Wire is also a blog. You can find that at azsober.com, and there's also additional articles and resources on there as well, and the link for that is in the description of this video, or if you're listening, it's in the description of the episode. So we appreciate that. We're gonna kind of just switch gears a little bit and touch on some upcoming things in the plugged in world. There's a lot of exciting stuff. We have a holiday party for our treatment center staff coming up. We're doing some fun things there. We always try to do like a New Year's holiday type event for all of our sober livings. So we have that coming up as well. And then also there's a conference coming up, TCIV. Yeah. Wade will be attending that. I will be as well in a cameraman fashion. So that's super cool. Our good friends at Zealy, they're going to be out there wheeling and dealing. And so I'm going to be boots on the ground, getting some footage and some interviews and stuff like that for them. So I'm super excited about that. So why don't you just, just touch on what's in store in the upcoming for the rest of the year, really. Yeah.
So, we like to end the year strong so we can pick up that momentum, like I've been talking about this entire meeting, to go towards that.
Give us 1 second.
You're all right. That's okay.
It's all right. Good. It's all good.
This is perfect. It's exactly how it was supposed to happen. You're all right.
No, it's
That's
all good.
Okay.
Yeah,
that's okay.
They just opened the garage. It's all good.
I wanted to cut that anyways. I didn't like where it was going.
It's all good. Yeah, we're just gonna restart. No, it's all good.
All right. She knew the code. We need the code.
Yeah.
Instead of going through that door. So this year, to end the year, we have our holiday party, which is coming up. Me and you are in the works of planning that. We're going to get a cool space, maybe a white elephant, do some gifts, probably ugly sweater. Next week is Spirit Week at the office. I have seen your emails on that, so getting all the gear together for Spirit Week, which is going to be a lot of fun, and I'm sure we'll get a lot of pictures and content and everything like that. It's really good. Anything we can do to build culture, I think that's one of the strongest things that set us apart from so many different treatment centers that I see, and there's a lot of great places out there, so I'll never speak badly about that, but I think one thing that we have is the culture we built, and we do treat it like a family. We have that boutique style treatment where you can't hide out and you're going to be a part of, and being a part of sometimes means doing things you don't want to do for the greater good of the family, and I'm really excited that we get to start doing some of these types of things as a community and growing that out. And then the sober living, where we got our start and our bread and butter is, I am really looking forward to getting out in the houses and doing an event that brings everybody together, hearing their New Year's resolutions, seeing people maybe from the past and what they've accomplished through the last year of being with us. Recently, I haven't been in the houses as much as I would like to be. I've been really focused up at the treatment center and getting that off the ground, but now that we seem to be on a pretty straight and narrow path up there, I'm excited to get back out in the houses and really get to see the afterworks of when people start doing the right thing and put in the work, like those gifts of sobriety that come. Maybe last year it was asking for a gift card from mom and dad so they could sell it for half price to go score or get some drinks or do whatever it was. And this year they're buying presents for mom and dad, and like that's the coolest thing to me, because I remember being there. I remember having to ask to borrow money, so I could buy a present for this person, so I didn't have to feel ashamed or guilt. And to see other people who were in that position maybe last year and get to say, hey, I got to take, my daughter shopping at the mall, and I got her Christmas presents this year, and those toys, that is where the juice of this program is, and gets me super excited for what we get to do every day. We really do see miracles on a day-to-day basis, and I'm so grateful that I get to do that, and I'm so thankful, for all the people who support us and allow us to live our dream, because reality is, without people watching this or without people choosing Plugged In Recovery, we kind of keep it from Thanksgiving to the New Year of just staying in, at least a whole month plus of gratitude, because we realize that without people supporting us and our vision, we wouldn't be where we are today, and we don't get to help the next addict or alcoholic or person who's suffering with mental health recover from what they're going through, to see those miracles happen. So big thanks to all those people, and super excited for all the events to come next week. TCIV, that'll be exciting. I did my boy a solid and got him a ticket. I finagled one. Somebody needed a content guy, and I was like, I know a guy. And I got the guy for you. It's going to cost you a $2,000 ticket, but I got you.
And dinner at Mastro's.
It's gonna cost you both of those things, but we'll make it happen. So I'm excited, man. It's gonna be a good month.
Yeah, no, it's a lot of exciting things going on. Also, just to highlight our past couple of residents of the week, Brian at our Vista house, been doing great. He just bought a car. Has been with us for about 5 months since he got out of treatment. Been doing a lot of good things, man. Another success story there. And then we have Jasmine at our female house in Chandler. She is coming up on 9 months here next week, and just been doing great. Has the steady job and everything else that kind of comes with just putting in the work. So we want to highlight them as well. Congratulations on all the good work that you're doing. And I think we want to highlight some staff members too at the treatment center.
Yeah, real quick before even getting to the staff members at the treatment center, highlighting those 2 residents of the week. We pick residents of the week out based on people who we see getting in and doing the deal. Now, both Brian and Jasmine, I've got to see from the very start. I was actually speaking at the treatment centers that they were in, so getting to see them at their worst and going through this thing, not knowing what was going to to happen next, and where am I going to go, and what is sober living really like, and can I stay sober? I've never been able to do this in the past. This isn't my first time in treatment. To 5 months later, purchasing my car, having a stable job, family back in my life, really good job with Jasmine, active in the community, being someone of great value to her community, not only in the house that she's respectively in, but helping out over at the meeting hall and getting meetings and throwing events, and she's active in church and Celebrate Recovery. And those are the upstanding members where you take someone who was literally at their low, who had no purpose. I don't want to say no purpose, but felt rudderless, let's say. And now they got a wind in their sail, and they're moving in a really fast direction. And it's really awesome to see those things. So shout out to both of you. Congratulations on being Residents of the Week. And we are super, super proud of each of you. And then highlighting some staff members, one in particular that I would really like to highlight, who helped with Joint Commission accreditation, and someone I've known for quite some time, and I've really just seen the growth out of, would be Jonah. And big shout out to Jonah. I'm really, really excited for the growth opportunities that I've seen you do. He came on to Plugged In Recovery on the treatment side right when we opened up. Jonah's a friend that I've known ever since I got started being sober. And to be very truthful, he has seen me in and out of the program. He has more sobriety time than I do, and just a guy who I think for a long time thought that I would never be able to make it, and he was a guy I kind of butted heads in philosophy with. But what I realized after a very short period of time is, I was in and out, and he kept staying sober, and it was by doing some simple things. Now I think some of the tact and the way you can present it, but all jokes aside, Jonah, I'm so proud of you. Congratulations on being our shout out for the treatment center. Your help with Joint Commission and all the work that you've put in, you being a program manager for the treatment center, and what you do in the lives of these patients every single day, being the guy on call who's willing to give direction, who's willing to give a ride, who's taking someone to detox or picking someone up from detox, and is willing to do those things. The growth I've seen from you for someone who wanted to cut their teeth in business development and was dead set, I'm not being in direct patient care anymore, to being someone who has taken on a role of pure leadership and has years of experience in the treatment space, and knows exactly how to handle hard situations, how to come up with solutions. I'm super excited to see what you accomplish in the next year with Plugged In Recovery, 3, 5, 7, 9, 10 years with Plugged In Recovery, because I really, really do think that you being in the top level position in this company is a reality for yourself, and seeing some of the problems that you begin to solve, and the belief that you have in yourself that we're going to get you over the edge, because you have a lot of people backing you. So congratulations, Jonah, and just super thankful for choosing to work with a friend and picking Plugged In Recovery to be your family.
Awesome, man. Yeah, congrats to everybody. And now we're gonna kind of wrap things up, but I did want to say a couple of things. One, we are super close to 100 subscribers on YouTube.
Subscribe.
We're almost there. We just need like 10 more. Subscribe. Maybe we can convince to give the social media department a budget to do a little prize for, maybe one of our subscribers. I don't know. We'll figure it out. But yeah, subscribe to the YouTube channel. We just, we're doing good on TikTok, Instagram, Facebook. That's where you can find most of this content. And then you could always listen to us on Spotify and Apple Podcasts as well. And again, if you're struggling and you just don't know what direction to turn, you could always give us a call the admission line. And there's always going to be someone there that picks up that can have that conversation with you, even if it's not plugged in. We have just an abundance of resources to refer you to get you the help that you need. So just give us a call. We're always happy to help. So
we also have to shout out Ryan J for joining the team.
Yes, we have a new member of the team, Director of Admissions, Ryan Jongeward. Also, another longtime friend of ours, has plenty of experience in the industry. And if you do give us a call, you're going to be talking to him. And he's a great guy to talk to. He's really been through it all. And yeah, man, super excited to have him. So yeah, welcome aboard, Ryan. Congratulations to everybody we shouted out. And subscribe to us, and we'll see you in a couple weeks.
Free shirt for the next one out of the next 25 subscribers. We'll send you a shirt in your color and size of choice.
What?
We got you. So
you heard it here. Subscribe to the channel, and you could win a free plugged in shirt.
Thanks, everybody. We'll see you next week.
All right.